for fast, cheap, and reliable Madden 21 Ultimate Team coins. Make sure you guys go check out my sponsor, Easy Mutt. Use code VENOM at checkout for 5% off. Yo, what's up guys, Venom Fire here, back with another video, and today me bringing you guys what I think is one of the best run schemes. It really does beat a lot of the pass defenses and run defenses that you will see online, not only because of the formation that it's out of, but also because of how unique the runs are and how diverse of a formation it is. The formation I'm talking about is gun, trips, tight end, offset. So it's similar to trips, tight end. You see the running back's just going to be offset. But it is a very similar look. It's going to be very unique because obviously not a whole lot of people run this, but it is still a very good formation. We're going to be running it out of the Seattle Seahawks offensive playbook, one of the best playbooks in the game. You got a really good bunch tight end, some other formations there. Also, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button. About 77% of my viewers are not subscribed, so hit that sub button if you are enjoying the content. If you're new to the channel, make sure you also hit that sub if you are enjoying the content. Drop a like on this video if you enjoy. But yeah, we're going to go ahead, hop into it. So there's really a lot of runs in this formation. You see just base, read option, counter, RPO alert bubble, inside zone, RPO alert, wide receiver screen, buck alert bubble, trap alert bubble. There's really a lot of runs, and the ones I'm going to be going over are going to be the trap alert bubble, read option, RPO alert bubble, and counter. Now counter is not my favorite. And you could easily swap that out for the alert, the buck alert bubble, but we're going to rock with counter today. And we're just going to start out with the read option, because read option is probably my favorite run in the game every year. It's just very underused. You don't see too many people using it for how good it overall is. So we're going to start out in that, and I'm just going to run this little 3-3-5 odd. I feel like it's a good mix between, there's a lot of formations that people run defensively. I feel like it's a good in-between, between those formations that they run. So it's a good middle ground is what I'm trying to say. But yeah, we're going to start out with this read option here. Space, obviously, is going to stay, so we're just going to run it. And you see you're going to get pretty good holes. Overall, I really do like this formation just because of how the blocks develop. You see that really you get a good push to that left side. I know JC Treader just got shedded there, but overall these runs are pretty much like a walking 5 yards. And you see if you can get to the outside, you have a little bit more potential, especially with some of the inside zones. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but just the base read option. You can also cut it up the middle, and this is just stock, so I'm not even going into, motion, IDing, all of that stuff. There we go. So he's going to follow him, and just taking a look at that, Baker Mayfield, he's not the fastest guy, but we were able to pick up an easy 8 yards. Now, let me show you guys the reason that I love read option. Just take a look at that guy that we're reading. I believe it's Chase Winovich over here on this right side. So we're going to get him to run, but he's going to kind of stay put. So here, he's actually going to follow him, so we're going to keep it, but I want you guys to take a look at when we run read option, but he actually is going to stay. That's pretty much just going to completely take him out of the play. So there, he's going to stay. He's not getting blocked at all. So that's going to give you an extra blocker, usually your tight end or your right tackle, to pick up a guy in the secondary. I believe the tight end's going to the second level and picking up the safety. Usually this guy's never going to be fast enough to catch up to the running back in the backfield. He's pretty much going to do nothing. So even if you have a pocket QB, even if you're using Phillip Rivers, Dan Marino, whoever, I feel like you should always run read option. Even if you don't really have too much of a threat, you cannot necessarily keep the ball, just in case your opponent hasn't set his coaching adjustments. Really can be deadly. And you see even a guy like Baker Mayfield, he's able to get out here and pick up 6 yards. So you will always take the free yards. Again, you can cut it up the middle and cut it to the side. That was definitely a bad read, but overall you want to use the read option heavy. It's going to be the base point of the entire offense, the entire run scheme. Read option, you're going to see how it does, and then you can go from there. Kind of piggybacking off of the read option, we got a similar run in this RPO alert bubble. Now this run honestly could be a little bit better than the read option. Now you really don't have that quarterback threat that I was talking about, but instead of taking out Chase Winovich on the right, you're actually going to take out pretty much this cornerback right here, and it's going to allow you to run to the outside or throw the ball. It does depend on what he reads. If he's going to come down and defend the run, then you definitely have a big gain throwing the football, but since we're in man coverage, more times than not, he's actually going to follow over there, and we're just going to be able to hand it off. So just base, he's going to fall over there, and I'm able to hand it off and get to the outside very easily. Now, let's even take that a step further. You saw how easy it was for me to get over to that side. But would it not be even easier if I motioned someone over? So you see I motioned him over. This also gives me another option on the RPO. I can actually snap throw that hitch. But just look at how much space you get. And you also notice that after we hand the ball off, even though we have that bubble threat, he's actually going to be a lead blocker. And he picks up a block. It takes one person out of the equation and really allows us to get to that side. So even though, we're getting rid of one of our blockers on that side, the receivers rarely hold their blocks for that long regardless. So if I could, I would have, motioned every single player over. But you see, again, you can motion your Y receiver or your X receiver. I hand it off, and right there he didn't pick up his block. So sometimes that'll happen. That's when you got to cut it up the middle. So again, that was poor run stick. But overall, it is a very good run. You can use some nice things. You can definitely throw that bubble, as I accidentally audible to the 0-1 trap, which we'll get into a little bit later. But yeah, this RPO is going to be very solid. Again, if your opponent's not running, jam, press, man-to-man coverage, if he's running that style of defense, then you're probably just always going to cut it up the middle. But even if you cut it up the middle, you see you got 5 yards, you break a tackle, you're up to 7 yards, you get a, fall forward animation, you never know. You can basically pick up a first down. So overall, I love these little formations in the game that start out with running, because I feel like, and I've said this in past videos, the best way to play offense this year is to keep a balanced scheme, even if you're in bunch, even if you're in trips. That's why you see people put running back at receiver and audible down, because it is very important to stay honest to the run or keep your opponent honest in defending the run. So again, a lot of the run defensive setups are going to be very different than the pass defense setup. So you will see your opponent have to respect the run. He's going to have to take people out of zones. He's going to have to rush people. He's going to have to spy people, shift people the ways that they don't want to. And overall, it's going to be a little bit difficult for him to defend that. But again, RPO alert bubble. Let's move on to our next run, which might be the best as well. RPO trap alert bubble. Very similar to the alert. You really don't have as much of an outside threat. I would say that's the main difference, and you're kind of forced to go inside. But I do like this RPO a little bit better. If I were to throw the ball, I would have a little bit more space, but you see just up the middle, it's going to give you a huge gap right there. Overall, 0-1 trap's very difficult to defend, and because we have read option, because we have RPO alert, bubble, and counter, they can't necessarily just commit to an 0-1 trap defense. A lot of times this year, and I know this the most, that inside zone and 0-1 trap defenses are a little bit different. So you hit him with inside zone, you might go to that defense, then you run 0-1 trap. Really is a guessing game for him defensively, and that's your idea when you're creating a scheme or running the ball. You want to get him to commit to something, and you see here we're even able to bounce it out sometimes, but really, you want to run something. If it's working, you stick with it. You see him stop it once, then you go to, 0-1 trap and then back to inside zone. It's really just a guessing game for him defensively. And with all of these runs being the exact same look, it's going to be difficult for him to know which one you're doing. Now, again, similar to the alert bubble, I can still motion over. And again, if this was like zone coverage, I could sometimes actually throw this little hitch, as I actually held Y. Now, that's a little bit of an issue. It's just because of how fast he hands off, so it's kind of difficult on those backside hitches to actually throw the ball, but you guys kind of get the idea. And again, just look at that up the middle. I know the Browns have a pretty good offensive line, but still, you guys should all know how good this 0-1 trap is. And again, if this was zone coverage, it would be, not only would the run be open a little bit more, but also the bubble would be open. Again, they can't really throw the bubble here because of the man coverage and the jammed, man coverage. But if it was zone, cover 2, cover 3, double flat, whatever, the zones will usually come up and play the run. So that will definitely help. And it also takes the guys out of the run game sometimes, especially if they're in man coverage. But you see there, we're getting these animations where you're giving yourself a chance to, pop the lid off and pick up a huge gain, especially when you give yourself one-on-one opportunities. You see a lot of times you can be one broken tackle away, and it's important that if you get hit in the backfield when you're running any running offense, that you do not, go away from the run. That's something sometimes actually coaches in real life will do. They get the run stopped in the first half. They won't go back to it at all, but Just like in real life, it's important to stick with the running game, even if he shows that he has a run defense one play. Maybe you motion someone over and then it is completely, faltered. But here you see that 0-1 trap giving us enough space to actually take it to the house. So there were 2 touchdowns on that. Overall, very, very good run. 0-1 trap's good. When you add the alert bubble, I think it just makes it even better. But let's move on to our last one, the halfback counter. Now this one's not going to be particularly good. It's not going to be my favorite. It's honestly the 4th option out of all of these. Now, particularly against this man coverage is what I was trying to say, is because they got the safety on the strong side. We're running to the strong side. We have no blockers over there. Even if I motion a receiver against this man coverage shell, one of the cornerbacks will shadow. So it's not really too easy to do that. Again, against zone is going to be a little bit of a better bet. But honestly, you still can pick up yards. Now, I'm a bigger fan of counter out of a non-offset formation, so where the running back's on the same yard line as the quarterback. I feel like it's a little bit easier because this is almost a 0-1 trap. It's very similar, just the blocks are developing a little bit more to that right-hand side. So you see the blocks. If you were not paying attention, you would probably think they are the exact same or similar. Again, I can use a little bit of motion. I can kind of motion them over there, but you see sometimes there's 2 free blockers, especially when you use some weird motion. And honestly, this counter is not too good in this situation. I probably should have audibled, but I'll just show it briefly. You see right there, you usually want to cut it up right, kind of diagonally. Sometimes, occasionally, you will be able to bounce it completely out to the right, or you can actually go up the middle. So again, you're reading the blocks. It's set up a little bit differently. You see how that guy usually comes in unblocked, but he's actually not going to make the play. So you see it's kind of similar to that RPO alert bubble. Right there, I might have had the edge to the outside, poor run stick again, but you guys kind of understand. You see it, how these blocks are developing. Right there, again, we get shedded, but we had a pretty big hole to the right. So again, it's just something different. If he has 0-1 trap defense, sometimes this counter will develop differently. So again, the blocks develop differently depending on the formation or the play that you're running. Again, you see we have a lot of big play potential in this, although we're not breaking the runs. You could see how you would maybe be able to pick up like 20 yards. You see, again, I try to get to that outside, but because of how stacked the right side of the defense is, it's not going to be your best bet. So again, situationally, play this very situationally, depending on what he's going to do. So if you're running the ball to the left, you're cutting it outside, he's going to stack more players on that left side. So depending on what he does, you always have an option to counter it. If he's going to stack the outside, you can go with the 0-1 trap. If he goes to the middle, you can go to the alert bubble, which has the bigger outside potential. If he stacks people on the left, you might want to go read option for the quarterback, or this counter to get to the outside with the running back. But overall, it gives you a lot of options, and I think, and just combining all the 4, also with the passing game, which again, I'm not talking about, but there's a very good passing game in this as well. You really can build a good scheme, and I do like this run scheme a lot. I recommend you guys go try it out. Again, it's a very fun scheme, a little bit off meta, but still with meta concepts, because again, it is trips tight end, but it's just offset, so a couple of stock passing plays won't be there. You get a couple abilities, you can definitely make a good passing scheme out of it. But yeah, that's going to do it for the video. If you guys enjoyed, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you are new, and peace. I'm out of here.